When Americans hear or learn about World War II, the most important things that come up are explosive battles such as Midway or intelligent generals such as Dwight D. Eisenhower. However, behind the scenes was one of the single most important contributions in American war history. The Navajo code talkers used their extremely complex language, which is encrypted further, to make a virtually unbreakable code. The code confused Japan and allowed Americans to win key battles in the Pacific, but their contributions were kept hidden from the public for decades. Although the Navajo code talkers were often overlooked in widely accepted historical perspectives, they were extremely important to the Allied victory and had endured cultural suppression and racial discrimination. Therefore, their perspective is equally as important to show the full history of the Navajo Code and World War II. Let's get some historical context. Before World War II, many native groups, such as the Navajos, were sent to boarding schools. Boarding schools, in this context, were essentially schools made to educate and assimilate native children into white culture. They frequently and harshly punished children for speaking their native language or participating in actions of their native culture. As part of the National Museum of the American Indians Oral History Project, Carol Fleming hosted an interview with Chester Nass, who was one of the original 29 Navajo code talkers. In this interview, Chester Nass stated,
"How they used to treat the kids, real bad. I mean, it was bad. They starve you to death from going to school. The food was terrible. Little bit in your plate, they give you just a little bit of everything."
The irony could be seen later as in 1942, after US entered World War II, the American military called on 29 Navajo Indians to create an unbreakable code and to use their language, which had been suppressed for so long. The Navajo code talkers served in some of the most dangerous battles in the Pacific Theater. For example, Iwo Jima, Saipan, Okinawa, and Guadalcanal. Along with the strenuous conditions that most soldiers face, the Navajo code talkers had to suffer from additional discrimination and challenges. As part of the National Museum of the American Indians Oral History Project, Carol Fleming hosted an interview with code talker Dan Akey, in which Akey stated,
"Tell me how they happened to him, because so happened that he had to pick some clothes from the Japanese, either shoes or notice it. Then we were back in the rest area. That's when it happened. And he wants to visit another person there. Now that's why he got captured there by his own man. So they brought him back to our outfit where the rest is kept."
This shows how, in the heat of the moment, Navajo features were often mistaken for the Japanese, and this caused confusion and unnecessary violence. This was often overlooked and an important issue since it was unique to the Navajo struggle. Additionally, in another interview for the same project, Teddy Draper Sr., a Navajo code talker, shares,
"I went in there and I sat in the chair and they told me, 'Chief,' they started calling me Chief now. They changed my name."
This shows how Navajo groups had to face severe disrespect for their culture and their society, while several Native Americans were forced to accept that of white Americans. One reason why historical interpretations differed was because earlier interpretations of World War II didn't even know about Navajo code talkers. In fact, the Navajo code talkers were kept secret in case the US wanted to use them again. However, in 1968, 23 years after the war had ended, they were finally given their recognition. Navajo involvement in World War II became more publicly known. In fact, a statement was revealed in which Major Howard Connor of the United States stated that were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would have never taken Iwo Jima. This shows how important the Navajo involvement was to World War II. As the secrecy disappeared, mid-century interpretations focused on the military and strategic success of the Code Talkers. The broader Native American context was not approached until around the 1990s, and the Navajo Code Talkers were seen as an idea or a military asset which was used to win the war, not a group of people who had an important culture and history. The 1990s to the present day involved the modern interpretations. Historians began analyzing the cultural aspects of the Navajo Code Talkers, how their culture was suppressed as children, and how later they're discriminated or disrespected in the army. Additionally, the irony of the Code Talkers was later explored, with the United States requesting the aid of a language they had suppressed for so long. Although modern interpretations have evolved over time, in today's US curriculum for history, the Navajo Code Talkers are often overlooked or the contributions are being rushed through. The Navajo Code Talkers helped secure Allied victory in World War II through a code that enemy forces never cracked. Yet this story remained hidden for decades because of military secrecy and the tendency of traditional historical narratives to overlook indigenous experiences. By listening to veterans such as Chester Ness and Teddy Draper Sr., we gain a deeper understanding of both World War II and American history itself. Their experiences show that history is not simply a collection of famous events and leaders. It's also a story of people whose voices were often ignored. Including the perspectives of the Navajo Code Talkers in our modern interpretations does more than add another chapter to our history textbooks. It challenges our understanding of the war, the nation, and the many communities whose contributions have shaped the United States.